Alex Chemarov here at Movements for Life. Today's restoration is going to take us to a local stretch for the groin. So if we can recall, the groin is part of the front butt and it ties in really well to any hip flexor type work. So whenever we do any type of hip flexor work, if we remember, we have to really start to posterior tilt the pelvis to allow those tissues to start gapping. Well, the groin, the neighbor to the hip flexor, is going to be involved depending on how we position your base of support. So we're going to go through a couple different variations, and some of the variations are going to be tweaked based on whether my knee is bent or straight, and also the starting position of the leg. So I'm going to have one variation where I'm going to be out in the abducted position, which is going to put a lot of load on the groin, obviously. So ideally, this local stretch is done after we have first rolled it, so it is already primed and it is a little bit more prepared to start taking some load. But that said, let's first start with a straight-legged variation. So a hip flexor stretch works really well with my foot being elevated and I'm driving my hip forward, right? So I'm getting a nice posterior tilt as I'm driving my pelvis forward, getting some nice gapping going on in the anterior hip. If I take my leg out of the back of the forward one and increase the distance between them, so a little bit wider, now what's going to happen is my pelvis is going to start driving towards the forward left when my left leg is in front. So my whole hip is going to technically be going through, and my back leg is going to be going through relative extension and abduction, which is going to put load and stretch on here. Sorry, if I give you a butt view, you'll see it a little clearer. So if I go a little bit wider with my stance, my hip isn't just coming forward, it's actually going to be driving forward and to the left, so you can see the demand that's going to be placed on the back leg groin. So this is a very effective way to start getting into that front butt, which is going to be really, really important, especially if somebody has any restrictions going through there. So a couple things to look for. Obviously, I want to be holding on. So we have a stretch cage, a true stretch, which works really well because somebody's really secure as they do this. But I can hold on to the wall, and my left hip is going to be higher than my right, which is going to create some nice rotation of the pelvis as well as translation. So I have both of those phenomenons going on through the pelvis, which is going to get after that groin. Same concept now if I go into a half kneeling position, and this now automatically, because I have so much more knee flexion because my back foot is elevated, I'm going to start getting a little quadsier at this point, right? So it's going to start traveling down the thigh. If I widen my base of support, now same concept. My pelvis is now going to start driving towards my right, kind of collapsing and absorbing. Going to put load and stretch onto that groin. So another great variation here to get after the groin in a little different manner, not in that straight-legged posture, right? Which is going to start getting a little bit higher up into the pectineus routes. All right. So another great one here. Lastly, another half kneeling variation is I can take my leg out to the side where it is already abducted. And now from here, I can go through and get a nice hip drive from here. So as my butt's going back, I'm arching. As I'm driving my pelvis forward, I'm getting a nice posterior tilt. So ton of groin, so a little bit more on the gracilis side of things due to the straight-legged posture, as well as that abducted position. So super, super effective. Hopefully nobody gets that TFL pinch. If you do, you might need to lacrosse ball that, so you can look that up under the soft tissue category and look up TFL and lacrosse ball that bad boy. But hopefully this should be quiet when you're out in that abducted posture. So there you have it. So go after the groin. It is definitely the key to unlocking a lot of movement, especially dysfunction with a lot of knees that we see, hips, and as it ties in with any SI joint and low back dysfunction. So get through the groin so that you can help get into some of that glute activation and then take it from there. So have fun. Thanks.